The Galactic Metallurgy Summit had attracted the finest craftsmen from 47 star systems. Master Forgemaster Kelthrix of the Vraxian Empire stood before the assembled delegates, his forearms gesturing dramatically at the holographic display hovering above the crystalline podium. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the station's artificial lights as he proclaimed his latest achievement. "Behold," Kelthrix announced, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into common galactic, "the pinnacle of metallurgical excellence. 500 cycles of research. The folding technique perfected at last." The blade rotating in the hologram was undeniably magnificent. Layers upon layers of different alloys created a subtle pattern across its surface, each fold strengthening the metal while maintaining flexibility. The Vraxian had managed to fold the composite material 32 times, a record that had taken his civilization's greatest minds half a millennium to achieve. The audience erupted in appreciative humming, whistling, and various forms of species-specific applause. Representatives from the Ket Collective extended their sensory stalks in approval. The silicon-based Ormorians pulsed with bioluminescent admiration. In the back row, Lieutenant Marcus Webb sat quietly, his standard-issue human delegation uniform looking almost plain among the exotic appearances surrounding him. He'd been sent to observe and report back to Earth's Industrial Council. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 3 years ago, and they were still learning the ropes of interstellar commerce and culture. Marcus leaned forward, studying the holographic blade with genuine interest. The pattern was beautiful, certainly, but something about it struck him as familiar. Very familiar. After the presentation concluded and the delegates mingled in the reception hall, Marcus made his way toward the towering Forgemaster. Kelthrix stood surrounded by admirers, his achievement having elevated his already considerable status. "Forgemaster Kelthrix," Marcus said, waiting for a gap in the crowd. "Impressive work. May I ask a question about your folding technique?" The Vraxian's compound eyes focused on the human with what might have been condescension. Humans were the newest members of the galactic community, barely more advanced than a pre-spaceflight civilization when they'd been discovered. What could this primitive possibly have to contribute? "Speak, human," Kelthrix said, his tone carefully neutral but his body language radiating superiority. "How hot do you heat the metal before folding? And what do you use for the flux?" Kelthrix's mandibles clicked in what his species used as a laugh. "The human understands technical terms. How delightful. We heat to precisely 1,847 degrees in your Celsius scale. The flux is a proprietary compound of borax derivatives and carbon particulates. Why do you ask?" Marcus smiled, a gesture that Kelthrix had learned meant either friendliness or predatory intent with humans, sometimes both. "And the different metals you're layering? Looks like a high-carbon core with lower-carbon outer layers?" "Your observation is correct, though simplified," Kelthrix said. His interest piqued despite himself. Several other delegates had gathered around, curious about this exchange. The carbon concentration varies from 1.2% to 0.6% across 17 distinct layers. Creating stable bonds between such different materials while maintaining structural integrity is what makes this technique revolutionary. It represents the cutting edge of materials science across the known galaxy. Right, Marcus nodded, pulling out his personal data pad. "It's really good work. Clean folds, nice pattern emerging. Must have taken your team forever to figure out the heat cycles and prevent delamination." "Indeed," Kelthrix said proudly. 300 of our finest metallurgists worked on this project. The mathematical models alone required computing power equivalent to— "Yeah, we call that Damascus steel," Marcus interrupted casually, scrolling through his pad. "Or pattern-welded steel, technically. Here, look." He turned the pad around. On the screen was a photograph of a kitchen knife, its blade showing an elaborate watery pattern of light and dark steel flowing like wood grain. Next to it, an old bearded man in a leather apron grinned at the camera, holding the blade up proudly. "That's my Uncle Rick," Marcus explained. "He makes these in his garage. On weekends. As a hobby." The reception hall fell silent. Kelthrix's forearms froze mid-gesture. "Your uncle?" The Forgemaster finally managed. "Yeah, he got into blacksmithing after he retired from the postal service. That's Earth's mail delivery system," Marcus added helpfully. "He watches tutorial videos on our planetary information network and just makes stuff. Kitchen knives mostly, sells them at craft fairs. That's like small local gatherings where people trade handmade goods. Marcus swiped through more images. Each showed blades with increasingly complex patterns. Swirls, ladders, raindrop patterns, mosaics of contrasting steel. This one has 640 layers. He made it for my dad's birthday. Took him about 4 weekends working in his spare time. A Ket delegate leaned in closer, its translator struggling with the concept. Weekends? Spare time? This individual is not a master craftsman. Oh no, Marcus laughed. Rick was a mailman. Delivered letters and packages for 40 years. The forging thing is just what he does for fun. There are thousands of people on Earth who do this. It's a pretty common hobby. We've been making Damascus steel for, well, the technique was lost for a while, but historically, over 1,000 years. We figured it out again about a century ago. Now you can learn it from free videos on the internet. Kelthrix's exoskeleton had paled to a lighter shade of blue, a sign of shock in Vraxians. 1,000 years? Well, the original stuff from Damascus was even older. Like 2,000 years? The modern pattern welding technique is the recreation. Humans have been folding and forging metal for a really long time. We were doing it before we had electricity. Before we understood atoms, actually. Just figured it out by trial and error because we really wanted better swords. Marcus zoomed in on another image. This is a guy in Japan, that's a region on Earth, who makes samurai swords using techniques that are over 700 years old. The blade goes through thousands of folds. It's considered a traditional art form. Museums collect them. The silence stretched on. Finally, a Ormorian delegate pulsed a question. How is this possible? The mathematics alone should require... Oh, the old guys didn't use math, Marcus said cheerfully. They just knew what worked. Heat it until it's orange, fold it, hammer it, repeat. You can feel when it's right. My uncle says it's all in the rhythm of the hammer and reading the color of the steel. Once you've done it enough times, your hands just know. He looked at Kelthrix's blade hologram again. Your alloy composition is really sophisticated, though. Uncle Rick just uses plain high carbon and mild steel. Sometimes he'll throw in some nickel steel for contrast. He says the fancy computer-designed alloys are cheating. Marcus grinned. He's a bit of a purist. Kelthrix slowly lowered all 4 of his arms. 500 cycles. The pride of Vraxian metallurgy. The summit's crowning achievement. And this human's retired mail-delivering uncle did it in his garage for fun. Your uncle, Kelthrix said slowly. Would he be willing to share his techniques? Marcus brightened. Oh, sure. He loves talking about it. I can send you links to his instructional videos if you want. He posts them online for free. He's got like 50,000 subscribers. He paused. That's considered moderately successful for an amateur content creator on Earth. As Marcus began forwarding links to the stunned Forgemaster, a Ket delegate whispered to its companion, Remind me again why we were worried about humans joining the council? Its partner's sensory stalks drooped in resignation, because we clearly had no idea what we were dealing with. Marcus, oblivious to the existential crisis he'd triggered among the galaxy's master craftsmen, continued scrolling through his uncle's portfolio. Oh, you've got to see this one. Uncle Rick calls it the supernova pattern. He made it for my cousin's wedding. Used 200 layers and 3 different types of steel. He said it was the most fun he'd had all year. The Galactic Metallurgy Summit would later be remembered not for the Vraxian achievement, but as the day the galaxy learned that humans had been casually doing the impossible for millennia, simply because they thought sharp, pretty knives were neat. And somewhere on Earth, a retired mailman named Rick was uploading his latest video, Damascus Steel for Beginners, Part 47, Advanced Mosaic Patterns. The view counter was already climbing.